What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Hub channel. Thankfully, the international break is almost over. God, that was pretty boring, but hey, nice to reset nonetheless. But that means that we now need the help, the tips, the advice of Bakar, ready for game week 5. We've got a month of FPL to get into now, Bakar. It's going to be hands-on. It's going to be intense. How are you doing, my friend? How was the international break for you?
Thanks for having me, Jack. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, it was all right. I had a surgery done for my pinky finger. I dislocated it while playing football. I'm a goalkeeper, so I dislocated it while playing. Thankfully, I'm doing better now. I sort of tactically planned it during the break, so that I could sort of get back working right in time before game week 5. And yeah, things are getting better. So thankfully, not much has happened over the international break. It's been quiet. We haven't had any injuries, etc. So yeah, looking forward to getting back into the mix. And as you've said, we have 4 game weeks back to back now before the next break. So plenty to discuss, including a potential double game week that's happening in game week 7.
Well, indeed. All that to get into. We were just talking a little bit off camera as well, guys. And Bakar said that he had a wire put through his finger, which sounds disgusting. You know what? I'll cut to that right now so you can see that conversation. It's pretty gruesome stuff. Don't worry, no pictures. But have a listen to this.
So what they've basically done is they've inserted a wire inside. Will hopefully bring the joint back in place, and that's going to take two more weeks, and then basically they're going to take it back out. So yeah, it's going to take another 2 weeks.
That sounds pretty painful, but not the end of the world.
It is. Yeah, I'll send you a picture actually. Just send it to you.
Oh, okay. So there we go. Bakar is on the mend, which is good to hear. And here's your team from last week: a red arrow. But actually not a bad score. I don't think 73 points was that bad last week necessarily. It was better than what I got. Kind of middle of the road score. Some people did have good game weeks, but overall, okay.
It was all right. I mean, it could have been better. But last week, I sort of recall in the previous video, I did say that most of my guys were playing against each other. Double United versus Arsenal. I also had Saka. I saw Martinelli. So I never expected the United guys to haul big against Arsenal. That's one of the main reasons for the relatively lowish score. But even 73 is fine last week, because you look at the average of most of the engaged managers was around the 74, 75 point mark. So not too bad. But yeah, overall, I was basically let down by Chelsea. Their failure against Nottingham Forest. I had 3 Chelsea. So yeah, long story short, I think I got unlucky. Chelsea should have won. The number suggested that Sterling and Jackson should have had more points than they actually got. And that's basically been the case particularly for Jackson. That's been the case throughout the season. I've had him from game week 1, and it's not really made for good reading. So yeah, it is what it is. We move on to next week.
I've put the new Chelsea kit on. I'm hoping that will bring the team some luck come game week 5, because we need it right now. I mean, that was an absolute shocker of a game week for Chelsea. But okay. Not too bad, not the end of the world. Let's have a look at how your team is shaping up for Game Week 5. Okay, mate, here it is. A Game Week rating of 92%. So not the best, but also not the worst. You know, I've seen worse Game Week ratings. First of all, just have a chat through what your general thoughts with the team. As you mentioned in the intro, no crazy news coming out of the international break so far, so no real injuries in your team to speak about. Just what are your general thoughts?
I think I'm relatively well placed when it comes to the team. I don't think there's any fires to put out as such. Let's say if I had one free transfer, I don't think I'd be very keen to make a transfer, because there's nothing obvious here, because I still have faith in Chelsea. I don't want to remove the Chelsea guys. It hasn't really worked out so far, but hopefully with their upcoming fixtures, I am open to giving them another chance. But again, I sort of get the feeling that game week 5 again could be painful, because I don't have Maddison, I don't have Son, and both of them will be highly owned.
Yeah.
And of course, Spurs versus Sheffield is the money ball fixture this week, and I don't have any of those guys. But again, I don't really want to sort of go out of my way to buy either of them, because when you look at the next 3 to 4 weeks, I think the United guys and the likes of Saka are probably going to outscore Son and Maddison. Even if they don't outscore, they're going to come close to matching them, which is fine by me. And then I sort of have this rough idea. I don't exactly know when to wildcard, but I have this sort of rough idea in my head to wildcard around game week 9, especially game week 10. Game week 10 is looking nice for my particular team.
Yeah.
Given how things are shaping up. So the team is looking fine for now, and I don't really have any glaring weaknesses to address. I mean, you can
Okay.
call Pickford a weakness, but I think I'm happy to roll with the keeper this week. Turner can cover.
Well, exactly. I feel like everyone's going to be, well, a lot of people are going to be electing to play Turner anyway. So you're not really losing too much there by just having
Yeah.
Pickford on the bench. So yeah, okay. Right then, let's talk about what you just mentioned there. United mids, overall, not been phenomenal. It seems as though there's only really been one game in which they've done well. Whereas, yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of people are going to be on Maddison. Son, the flavour of last week, had an unbelievable game in terms of FPL output. Is there nothing for you? I mean, you've got 2.3 million in the bank. Nothing that screams out to you saying just make that transfer. That is a plum game against Sheffield United. Even if you have to then reverse it down the line or do another move, are there not points there in that one game?
It's not about the one game alone. I think Son will be in our team sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not really looking at Madison as much. I think Son is the one to get, especially if he's playing as the number 9 and if he has penalties, then I think he has one of the highest ceilings in the game. I think he's probably after Haaland and Salah, his ceiling is probably the highest. He's that good if he plays in that number 9 position,
Wow.
because Spurs are very attacking.
Yeah.
So I love Son as much as I love him. I am finding it very, very difficult to remove any of my midfielders from him, because again, we've said this previously as well, that this is the season where you will be removing good picks for optimal picks. But the thing is that it's all of my midfielders are doing well in terms of underlying data. You look at Mbumo, Bruno, Rashford, Saka, all of these guys, they're in the top 10 players for non-pen XGI so far. United have a great run of fixtures coming up. Even Arsenal have Everton away this week, Bournemouth away in Gameweek 7. I expect them to score plenty of goals against Spurs as well next week, because I expect that to be an open game. So do I really want to sell either of them? I mean, it could pay off, but I'm not entirely sure, especially given the fact that Spurs are to play Liverpool, Arsenal in Gameweek 6 and 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I'll back the midfielders I have, given their fixtures that they have coming up.
Yeah, if the fixtures were the short term immediate fixtures for Tottenham are better, I feel like a lot of people would be making that move. United midfielders, their stats, the underlying stats have been good, but kind of similar to the back end of last season, it's not really translating to the hauls that we want to see from relatively expensive players. But it's those two fixtures. But yeah, I mean, now, as you say, Son with a really, really high ceiling. And I think that's reflected in the predicted points. These have seen a big increase now. Since he's moved to number 9, predicted points for the next game, 7. Normally these are pretty kind of sensible predictions. Of course, Son could blank in that game. He could go off, as a lot of people expect him to, but he could blank. But 7 as a prediction is extremely high. Look at Haaland's sort of numbers. We're getting to those sort of numbers there. So, it's got to be tempting. But, yeah, United midfielders not too far behind, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be scary. I mean, it's going to be scary not owning him this week. I mean, I think if you own him, he's probably even in the debate for the captaincy. He's that good this week.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be scary not having him. But yeah, I'll probably be hiding behind a sofa for that.
Well, that's the thing with Haaland away. That's Haaland away at West Ham. Not an easy fixture yet. It's Haaland, but Son at home to Sheffield. Could be a massive upside decision.
Yeah, it doesn't look like I'll have that decision to make for my own team, but
fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to consider.
Sure.
I think if I had Son, I'd probably captain him, honestly, this week.
That is tempting. Okay, Bakar, let's move on to probably the problem area of your entire team. We don't really need to talk about Pickford because he's not going to be playing this game week. Although we'll come on to him, because if you don't have Turner, perhaps there's a potential move you could do with Pickford depending on your transfers. But let's talk about your defense. Udogie looks good, right? Plum fixture, playing well, fine. Chilwell hasn't been doing as well as we might have liked, really. He's just had that one haul, but you're not going to sell him before Bournemouth away. Estupiñán and Saliba is a bit of a decision for you this week. What are you thinking with them? Or could you be making a transfer for one of those positions?
It's an interesting question, because I think I want to save a transfer. I don't want to use one in attack this week. The obvious area to address is defense. We've noticed a slight downturn in the number of clean sheets that are being kept this season, whether it's down to the increase in stoppage time or whether teams are playing an attacking brand of football. That's debatable. But What that means is that I'm more inclined to now jump on on defenders with attacking potential and
Yeah.
with obviously good, strong underlying data defensively. That's making me want Trippier this week. And I think I will be getting him
Oh, wow.
for Saliba. I think I will be getting him for Saliba. I would rather keep a Stupinan because A, he has more attacking potential, and B, I really want him for that Bournemouth fixture next week. I don't see a reason to sell him before that fixture. Saliba, as good as he is, Arsenal's defensive data is all right, but Everton, I expect Everton to score this week. They've underperformed in terms of XG. In fact, their XG is around 8 and they've scored just twice. So they haven't really been finishing off their chances. Mope hasn't helped.
Oh,
But now
yeah,
that they've
exactly.
gotten a striker and they have Danjuma, I think they will score against Arsenal, especially considering that it's at home. So I feel sort of comfortable selling Saliba this week. And honestly, I am scared to sell Stupinan before Bournemouth at home because that's a game, even though Brighton's defensive stats haven't been great, that could be a 15-pointer
Yeah, who
because Stupinan
cares?
is
Who cares?
top for he's top for penalty area touches, XGI among defenders. I don't want to sell him before that
No.
fixture. I want to own him, and I want to be in a position where I can sort of take advantage of that haul.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the upside compared with Saliba compared to an Estupinian, and you're deciding which one to sell, what's
Yeah.
what's Saliba's ceiling really? Even against like an Everton away, it's yes he could score a header, but it's extremely unlikely. He got that very jammy assist earlier in the season, but yeah, you look at Estupinian
Yeah.
game week 6, even without a clean sheet, as we saw, against Arsenal, and even this season as well,
Yeah.
he doesn't need a clean sheet to do really well.
Exactly. And I mean, Trippier is going to be perma play from now on, and I'm very, very confident that he's going to outscore both, and in fact, both Stupinan
Okay.
and Saliba over the next 4 weeks. When you look at Trippier's fixtures, they're really, really good. Brentford this week isn't the easiest. It's an all right fixture. I would say this is the toughest of the next 4 that they have. Then they have Sheffield United away, then they have Burnley at home, and then they have West Ham away. Yes, Newcastle are playing in the Champions League, and this is a concern that he could be rotated. But I think that the chances of that happening aren't as high as people are making it out to be. I think the murmurs regarding potential rotation that might hit Newcastle and Trippier are greatly exaggerated. A, because most of the games are at home that Newcastle are playing, and B, because their turnarounds are fine. There's a EFL Cup fixture in between as well, which I expect them to rotate in. And that's a fixture I expect Trippier to be rotated in. And if he gets rotated there, I don't think he's going to be too much of an issue over the next 4 weeks. He's actually second for chances created among all defenders this season. And that's despite the fact that Newcastle have had a very rough run of fixtures. They've faced Brighton, Villa, Liverpool, and Man City in the first 4 fixtures. And yet they're second only to Man City for fewest big chances conceded. So the underlying data is strong. Trippier's chance creation numbers are strong. And because of that, whenever Newcastle are to keep a clean sheet, Trippier is likely to haul because the bonus accumulation is very good as well because of his chance creation. So all in all, I can see Trippier scoring a good number of points over the next 4 weeks. Not necessarily this week, but over the next 4 weeks, I expected him to outscore Saliba, which is why I think it makes sense to move right now.
Okay, but yeah, so on that, do you think it's definitely worth it to go now? Because you could just wait a week, get some more information. As you said, Brentford at home, not the best fixture. I don't think that... Yes, I know Everton have great or good underlying numbers, but the fact of the matter is they don't have a clinical striker or a clinical attack in general. It wouldn't be surprising to see Arsenal keep a clean sheet.
I mean, if I was to guess, I think Newcastle will concede. I think Arsenal will concede as well.
Okay.
And I would rather have the guy with the attacking threat.
Yeah.
And if it's a transfer that I'm making next week, then why not do it this week? Because next week Arsenal have Spurs. I would rather have Trippier for Sheffield away next week as well. So especially with 2 free transfers, a transfer I think I should make. If I had 1 free transfer, I would probably lean towards saving, or I might have more reservations making it. But with 2 free transfers, nothing better to do. I think it's the best possible route for transfer for my team this week.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying.
And the big question is that whether or not whichever transfer I make this week, whether or not it will affect any of my wildcard strategy in the future. I've looked at different strategies, wildcard 8, wildcard 9, wildcard 10. And regardless of strategy, Trippier is still coming in my team. So it's just a good long-term move.
And the upside is there, which it isn't for Saliba, which I do understand. But yeah, not going to lie, I definitely expect Brentford to score. But it's at home. You never know. And the fixtures have been hard for Newcastle so far. Okay, where do you want to go next, Bakar? I think that we should talk about this double game week that's just been sprung on us. Is there anything in this for you? Do you even care? You have Kabore, you know, it's in the future. Is he going to play in that game for you, in that double? I mean, are you going to look at players like Morris or anything like that?
I have more interest in the game week, in this double game week, than a lot of other guys do. I think there's still some potential for points to be taken advantage of. I think I'm not sure whether Kabore will play. Doughty is injured, so there's a good chance that Kabore could sort of seal his position. If Doughty is absent, then that sort of gives him a better chance of playing. Morris is the one I really have an eye on, because Luton have the better fixtures of the two. They're playing Everton away and then Burnley at home. And Morris is basically a 90-minute guy who's on penalties, and he's the focal point of their attack. So he's cheap as well. So I don't think there's enough reason to sort of completely ignore this week, because I mean, we've seen in the past double game weekers have done well, and I'm all for a double game week. I have this.
It's hard not to get kind of drawn into it.
I know a lot of people will. I mean, at this point in time, it's very easy for us, Jack, to be sitting here and saying, "Oh, it's just Luton. It's, you know, they're terrible. They're a poor side."
That's what I'm saying, by the way.
But come game week 7, things might be different. You know,
That's true.
You might get caught up in the double game week frenzy, and I'm not ruling getting Morris. I think he's a good option, potentially even a captain option in game week 7. I mean, I don't think he's a bad captaincy differential if you want to go there. Honestly,
it stinks of Lewis Dunk to me. You know, back in the day. and that's when Brighton weren't a great team, but they were still better than this current Luton team. I know he's on penalties. I know the fixture good. I have to remind myself it is.
I mean, I'm not saying you should go out of the way to get him this week. I think there are 3 scenarios where you can potentially look at getting him in this week. I think if I was on a wild card, I would get him because it would sort of put me a transfer ahead for game week 7, and he is cheap, so he'd help me afford the likes of Salah as well. And Salah is someone I would want to build my wildcard team around, because I mean, a lot of us will be wildcarding to get Salah in our teams for Liverpool's
the run.
Great fixture run from game week 8, 9, and 10. So it would be really nice for those who are wildcarding this week to actually be ahead of the curve and get Salah in right now. And Morris would help afford that. Not only does he have a double game week fixture, but he's also cheap, so that's nice.
Would he be your 8th attacker though, or would you start him?
No, he'd be my 7th attacker. He won't be my 8th attacker.
Really?
He'd be my 7th attacker. Yeah, I'm fine playing him for the next 2. Fulham away and Wolves at home. They're okayish fixtures, honestly. Or you can
Fair enough.
You can go. I mean, you don't actually have to play him. You can go for a 4-5-1 as well.
Yeah.
I mean, currently in I made a wildcard draft. I've sort of posted it on Fancy Football Hub. I've written an article about it. In that, I have Morris as a second striker, and he's rotating with Burn from Newcastle, so you can do that. I don't really mind that. 4-5-1 is fine for the next 2 weeks, and then you can play Morris in game week 7. And I mean, there are a couple of other scenarios as well. For example, if you have João Pedro and we sort of get news that he's not playing, then he's an easy switch from him. Similarly, a lot of us have Alvarez. If Alvarez is benched because Argentina are playing in Bolivia, that's a tough fixture. So if we hear, it's a Saturday deadline, so we could hear early team news. If you hear that he's benched, then there's a good chance that you can move him on to Morris.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not sure that I could go there personally, but when you get to 7, yes, I feel like that could be tempting, but I don't know. Maybe it's the predicted points that are putting me off as well. I mean, even in that double, just 5.9 predicted points. Yes, he could do well. He also could, you know, just play 90 minutes in both games and not achieve anything. But, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Last thing I want to ask you about is just Chelsea in general. Sterling, Jackson. I feel like maybe we've kind of fallen into a little bit of a trap there. You know, the Luton game was more of a one-off now, it looks like, when you compare it to the rest of the season. Obviously good against Liverpool, but apart from that, it's not been too great for them. What do we think there?
Chelsea actually put up more XG against Nottingham Forest than they did against Luton. So I think it was a case of variance where the underlying data was there. If the underlying data wasn't there, and if I was sitting in my team with triple Chelsea, I'd be more worried. But because the underlying data is there and the conversion rate is basically the issue, I was actually having a look at Jackson's historical conversion rate.
Okay.
Villarreal, it was over 25%. This season, it's around 7%, so it's completely abysmal. But when you look at his data over a large sample size, it sort of tells you that he's not a terrible finisher as we're seeing him to be. So hopefully things improve. Bournemouth's defensive stats are absolutely terrible. They're conceding shots left, right, and center for fun. So I expect Chelsea to score 2 or 3 goals this week. And if they do, I expect Sterling and Jackson to be involved. So I'm not overly concerned about them this week. I'm happy to give them this week before I reassess them in game week 6.
Yeah, that's encouraging to hear. I do think that Bournemouth away from home sounds kind of counterintuitive, but having a team that may come at you a little bit, try and get on the ball a bit more like Bournemouth tend to do at home, may be a good thing for Chelsea, just to, on the counter, more space will open up for the likes of Sterling and Jackson, and maybe even Mudryk, who, can utilise their pace and get in behind and cause a lot of damage. Yeah, Jackson is one that I've obviously been disappointed with his finishing, so far this season. We had that howler of a miss against whoever it was last game, Forest. But in pre-season, his finishing was great. So those numbers from his Villarreal days do encourage me to think that there is a finisher there. Let's just give him a little bit of time. So, yeah, there's your team. Final word on Pickford. Looking to sell him anytime soon, or is he just there now until wildcard?
I don't think I definitely won't sell him this week. I'll address this later. Who knows where we are in game week 6? Depends. Sure. Let's say if I don't have a better transfer to make, who knows? I might treat myself to a Burnley keeper.
Oh wow, what a transfer! Now the keepers for that. That's the one thing that I will say. We've seen historically that there is upside for keepers in doubles, so that actually could be a decent transfer. I don't know, especially given that the wildcard is around the corner potentially, as you said. Game week 9, 10 after 7. That could be interesting. I quite like that.
Again, it depends on where we are next week, and if there's anything better in my team to do. But yeah, it's something I could end up doing.
Absolutely. Okay, Bakar, let's finish off this video with Fantasy Football Hub's AI recommended transfer for your team. This is interesting. This has actually changed of late actually as well, because I had a look. We have very similar teams, but I had a look last week at my team, and it was recommending Saliba to Trippier, which is still recommending now, Saliba to Trippier. However, it's also recommending something else. Now, do you have 2 free transfers, or do you just have one? Do you?
Yeah.
You have to. Yeah. Okay. This is it. This is the difference. This is why I think I wasn't recommended this. It wouldn't recommend this for a hit. But another recommendation is first of all, you've got to be happy with the fact that it says Saliba out for Trippier. That's exactly what you're thinking, right? So that's kind of confirms that it's a sensible decision nonetheless.
Yeah, always good to have the AI's backing and to have some confirmation bias going my way.
Exactly. But this one is one that I don't think you're going to do, but Sterling out for Maddison. What are your thoughts there? That is the current recommendation for the second transfer. And looking at the predicted points over the next 5, which is what it's showing on screen up to game week 9, you see that the difference between them week on week is minimal, but over that period, a point per week, that kind of adds up, and that I think is why the AI is saying have a think about that one.
It's suggesting it because it assumes that I won't wildcard before game week 9, but there's no guarantee that I will.
That's true. That's
so I when you look at all transfers I'm looking at for now are solely for the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks at best. Okay. There's a chance I might wildcard in 8. There's a chance I might wildcard in 9, and if Spurs are facing Arsenal and Liverpool in game week 6 and 7, then that's enough. That's enough reason for me not to go there. Or I would rather save a transfer and pack Sterling, because over the next 3 weeks I would expect Sterling to outscore Maddison actually, if not match him at the very minimum.
Really? Okay, so that's going against actually what the algo or the AI is saying. But looking at the fixtures, maybe that is where you come in with your knowledge and just your own kind of thoughts, and say, no, I disagree. But at least that first transfer is there to kind of confirm your thinking. Guys, if you would like to see your own AI recommended transfers personalized to your team, the link to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub is down below. If you haven't already signed up, there is still an offer ongoing. 30% off, 7-day free trial. Take advantage of it. It's very good stuff. And if you've got a funky transfer in mind, then the AI might just back you up. Who knows? Go and check it out yourself. Bakar, thank you very much for your tips and advice. Coming in now to a solid month of FPL, which I'm very much looking forward to. Good luck this game week. Your final team reveal will be out come the end of the week, next to deadline. We're recording this early in the week, so there could be injuries and stuff that sprout up over the next few days. But yeah, for now, Bakar, thank you. And guys, I will see you all on the next episode.